Just to circle back, Ricardo, you had mentioned that they did the study, The Secret of the Forgiveness of Sins. For those who might not know what this particular study is, it's when the church teaches their doctrine that there was a pre-existence, that we tried to murder God in heaven and we were serial killers in heaven, and that's all the souls on earth are cast out angels. And now the only way for us to be redeemed is through Passover, celebrating their Passover, that this church says that they're the only ones that keep. But I did have a question about your baptism. Um, During that time, when they were saying, you have the option to be baptized, you had mentioned that they had mentioned the name Ahnsahnghong. Was that a factor that made you want to be baptized, or was it more of the seal of God aspect that made you want to be baptized? Was it them saying Second Coming Christ came and you were amazed by it and you wanted to be part of the church, or was it just for the seal of
The
God,
fear.
the fear that they gave you, and the little shred of hope that you will be saved from disaster?
Or maybe a mixture. I don't.
Yeah, it could be a few different things, but like, what was the determining factor for you deciding to be baptized?
Honestly, it was only the seal of God. I just wanted to be
Okay.
protected from disasters that could happen. Because what was driving me at that time was the fear of what could happen to me at any point.
Mm-hmm.
It was not so much because I hadn't seen a lot of evidence for Ahnsahnghong being the second coming Christ yet. They just showed me a couple of things, and it didn't mean much to me at that point. But they had showed me enough for me to be convinced about the seal of God and how effective it could be at protecting someone according to their doctrine. So that's really what convinced me to be baptized.
Yeah. And I do also want to mention, because your story is a little bit different than some other stories of people who were baptized in earlier years. For my time, we didn't hear the name Ahnsahnghong or, learn too much about God the Mother, that teaching, until we've been baptized and then continue to go through the course of lessons. They want you to believe the law, and then they will slowly introduce, Second Coming Christ, then God the Mother. But after a while, I think that they were being called out for their deceptive tactics, and they created a checklist that they could apply or not apply, where you had to do, I think, 1 or 2 truth studies, as they call it, and have to know about Ahnsahnghong and God the Mother before baptism. So they created a new system around the time you were baptized. But since then, I've seen them either use it or not use it, or just, somehow casually slip in, oh, and Ahnsahnghong. And, they'll find a way to get there, to bear their fruit without actually having to scare someone off with the name Ahnsahnghong. But I think during the time of your baptism, there was a new method that was going around where you had to have those 2 studies at least discussed, and then also like some sort of what they call a truth study. So that's just why, maybe your baptism story is a little bit different from those who were baptized earlier on and they didn't hear Ahnsahnghong until the baptism room. So
I'm curious.
Oh, go on.
I'm curious because they taught you about God the Mother in the Bible, but did they, in that initial study, do you remember if they specified to you or clarified to you that they actually believed that there was a human being who was God the Mother and she was alive in South Korea, and tell you the name or anything like that? Or did they just kind of give you the basics of the doctrine?
No, so they didn't. They just told me that she exists and we have her and she's in heaven. But they never told me that it was a certain individual who was taking care of their church, or who was the head of their church.
Yeah.
They never told me that until I think months after all this had taken place, and that just came from me just kind of asking questions. I think the first time I got to actually find out it was someone was when I attended a worship in the morning and they showed a video of her up on the screen. And I was just wondering who that was. And then I come to find out that's who they were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was there, I saw her photos. They had like pictures on the wall, and I said, "Oh, who is she?" And all they would say is, "Oh, she's very important to the church. You'll learn more about her later." And that was they wouldn't tell you, yeah, this is who we believe is God. Like not like 2,000 years ago, how they would proclaim, yes, Jesus is the savior. This is more of, we'll wait for you to be full of like fear and guilt, and then we'll reveal who this is to you. Because it sounds like they first got you with the fear and gave you the lesson about the seal of God, like this is the only way to be protected. And then they brought you back, and then they taught you about you're a sinner from heaven, and this is, you owe God so much, so you're in debt to God, so you have to do more for God, which is, I think, a big purpose of that study. So you come for your first Sabbath day worship and Bible study, and how does
Yeah,
that go?
well, I also want to tell people who are listening that it can sound kind of weird how you can fall for these kind of ideas and beliefs, but the thing is they don't tell you before you study. They tell you while you're reading the verses. So you're going from verse, and they say, so what does this verse say? It says this. But before you have any time to actually read it carefully and read the context of it before and after, they jump to another verse. So you're just left with that. You just have to trust them that that's how it is. And that's basically how it went for basically all of my studies that I was doing there while I was still a new member.
Thank you for watching that video. Everything I do on this channel and all the videos and interviews that you might be watching are only made possible because of financial supporters. And so if you have any interest in supporting Great Light Studios, you can find links in the description below this video where you can find different ways that you can help me continue to make content like this.